Tryakti chosen. March 26, they are on the way. No signs, no warnings, it will happen suddenly. You made a decision this week that no one saw, no one cheered, no one even noticed. You chose not to react. You chose to swallow the retort that was on the tip of your tongue. You chose to remain quiet when everything inside you screamed to defend yourself. And after the moment passed, you felt weak. You felt like a coward. You felt defeated. I am here to tell you that you are completely wrong about what happened. That silence was not weakness. That silence was the final movement of a spiritual process that has been building for months, perhaps years in your life. And what this movement has just unlocked is on its way now. Without warning, without a sign, without visible preparation, it will happen suddenly. And when it arrives, it will change everything. If you close this video before the end, you will miss exactly the information you need so as not to be caught off guard by what is about to happen. I know you are tired. I know the weight in your chest does not ease. I know you wake up in the morning and the first sensation is not hope, it is survival. One more day, one more battle, one more round of pretending everything is fine when inside you are falling apart. And the worst part is that no one around you seems to notice. You look around and people go on with their lives normally, laughing, posting photos, making plans, and you wonder why everything feels so heavy for you when it seems so light for everyone else. I will tell you why, and this answer will bother you before it sets you free. You are heavy because you are carrying something that is not yours to carry alone. This weight you feel is not punishment. It is not failure. It is not the consequence of something you did wrong. This weight is what happens when the blessing is so close that the entire spiritual world enters into friction. It is the final tension of a cord about to break. It is the pressure that precedes the explosion. And you are interpreting as defeat that which is actually the clearest sign that victory has already been decreed. A study from the Federal University of São Paulo mapped cortisol levels in people who reported going through periods of intense life transition, job changes, the end of relationships, identity crises. What they discovered was that the highest peaks of cortisol, the stress hormone, did not happen in the middle of the crisis. They happened immediately before the resolution. The human body reaches maximum tension not when things are getting worse, but when they are about to change. Your body knows what is coming before your mind does, and at this moment your body is screaming that something monumental is approaching. But before I reveal to you exactly what is arriving, and why the enemy is working with such urgency to keep you distracted, I need to ask you one thing. Subscribe to this channel now. Click the subscription button and activate the notification bell. I know it seems like a simple request, but understand, the content I bring here is not entertainment. It is spiritual ammunition, and if you are not subscribed, the algorithm will bury this ammunition before it reaches you. Your subscription is an act of positioning. It is you saying that you will no longer be without access to that which feeds your spirit. Now pay attention, because what I am going to explain to you now is the invisible mechanics of what is happening in your life at this exact moment. There is a strategy the enemy uses when he realizes he cannot cancel what God has decreed. He cannot change destiny. He has no authority to revoke a divine decree. But he has an extremely effective tactic. If he cannot stop the blessing from arriving, he tries to corrupt the posture with which you receive it. Think with me. Imagine that God has prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies, exactly as Psalm 23 says. The table is set, the food is served, everything is ready. But the enemy positions himself at your ear and begins to whisper, "This is not for you. Are you sure you deserve to sit there? Look at your hands. They are too dirty to touch this table." And what happens? You sit at the table, but you eat with fear. You drink with guilt. You receive with suspicion. And a blessing that should nourish you transforms into a weight, because you received it through a filter of unworthiness. This is exactly what is happening to you. The enemy knows he cannot block what is coming, so he is working frantically on another front. He is attacking your identity. He is filling you with doubt. He is making you feel that you are not good enough, that you did not pray enough, that you did not fast enough, that your past disqualifies you, that your errors created an insurmountable barrier between you and what God has prepared. And do you know what the most dangerous part is? This voice does not sound like an attack, it sounds like humility. It disguises itself as healthy self-criticism, as realism, as common sense, but it is none of that. It is sabotage. It is a military operation against your faith. The Bible tells a story that illustrates this with surgical precision. 1 Kings chapter 18. Elijah was on Mount Carmel. He had just faced 450 prophets of Baal. He had won a battle that seemed impossible. And after this victory, he said to King Ahab, "Go up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of abundance of rain." Remember this detail. Elijah heard the sound of rain before any natural evidence. The sky was clear. There was not a single cloud, no meteorological sign, no forecast. But Elijah heard it. And after declaring what he heard, he sent his servant to the top of the mountain to look toward the sea. The servant went up and returned, saying, "There is nothing." Elijah sent him again. "There is nothing." Again, "There is nothing." 7 times Elijah sent the servant to look, and on the 7th time the servant said, "There is a small cloud the size of a man's hand rising out of the sea." I need you to understand what this passage is telling you. You are in the moment of the small cloud. What you see now is almost nothing. It is an indication so small that logic discards it. It is an improvement so subtle that no one around you takes it seriously. It might be a door that opened and you don't even know if it will lead to anything. It might be a person who appeared in your life suddenly. It might be an idea that won't leave your head. It might be a dream that repeated 3 nights in a row. The enemy wants you to look at this tiny beginning and say, "This is nothing. It's just a coincidence." But Elijah did not say that. Elijah looked at a cloud the size of a hand and said, "Prepare the chariot and go down so that the rain does not stop you." Elijah treated the indication as if it were already the torrential rain, and that is exactly what happened. The rain came, abundant, overwhelming, unstoppable. If you are feeling something at this moment, if something inside you is moving while you hear these words, I need you to do one thing now. Click the like button. Do not leave it for later. Your like is what makes this video reach other people who are in the same moment of the small cloud. People who are on the verge of giving up because they think the sign is too small to mean anything. Now I will go deeper, because I need to explain to you why it will happen suddenly, and this explanation will change the way you understand God's time. The world we live in operates on a linear system of cause and effect. You plant, you wait, you harvest. You study, you graduate, you get the job, you work, you save, you buy. Everything follows a predictable sequence, and you were trained since childhood to think this way. But God does not operate in this system. God operates in what theology calls kairos, the opportune time, the qualitative time, different from chronos, which is chronological, quantitative time. In chronos, everything is gradual. In kairos, everything is instantaneous. Kairos is the moment when eternity invades time. It is when 20 years of waiting are resolved in 20 seconds. It is when a door that was locked for a decade opens with a silent click. It is when the impossible becomes reality without transition, without warning, without intermediate stages. Joseph spent 13 years between the pit and the palace, 13 years of slavery, slander, and prison, and when the moment arrived, he was not promoted gradually. He did not go from prisoner to helper, from helper to supervisor, from supervisor to governor. He went from the dungeon straight to the throne in one day. A single day undid 13 years of waiting. This is kairos, and this is what is about to happen in your life. But here is the point that almost no one talks about, and this is where the premise of this video connects with the exact moment you are living. Before kairos manifests, there is one last test. And this test is not grand, it is not dramatic, it is not a monumental trial by fire. The last test is almost invisible. It is the test of silence. It is the test of not reacting. It is exactly what you did this week. When David was being pursued by Saul, he had the opportunity to kill him inside a cave. He could have ended all the suffering with one blow. Logic said, "Do justice with your own hands." David's men said, "It is now, God has delivered him to you." But David did not react. David cut the corner of Saul's robe and then felt his heart heavy for having gone too far. He chose silence. He chose restraint. He chose to trust that vengeance belonged to God, not to him. And it was this silent decision, this decision that no one cheered, that sealed David's ascent to the throne. You did the same. Perhaps you do not know it, but this week you were tested. That situation where you swallowed the answer, where you let it pass, where you chose not to enter the fight, that was not cowardice. It was approval. You passed the last test. And now, what was stuck has been unlocked. I need to share with you a word in Hebrew that will solidify this in your spirit. The word is pita, which in Hebrew means an instant, a blink of an eye, something that happens so fast that the human mind cannot process it. This word appears in Isaiah chapter 54, verses 7 and 8, when God says, "For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee." The word small moment in Hebrew carries the idea of something that has already happened, already passed, already been left behind. God is saying that the period of apparent abandonment has already ended, and the mercy that follows will not be proportional to the suffering. It will be disproportionately greater. It is as if God said, "I know it hurt, and therefore what I am bringing now will be so abundant that it will erase the memory of the pain." If this is resonating within you, go to the comments now and write the word unlocked in capital letters. This is your prophetic declaration. You are decreeing that the waiting period has come to an end and that God's Kairos has activated in your life today, March 26th. Write unlocked and watch what will begin to move around you in the coming days. Now I need to address something that is perhaps the most uncomfortable part of this video, but it is the part you most need to hear. What is coming for you is not just a blessing, it is also an exposure. And the difference between those who prosper and those who crumble when the blessing arrives is exactly here. When God promotes you, He places you under a spotlight. And this spotlight does not only illuminate your talents and your qualities, it illuminates everything, including the dark corners you have hidden, including the limiting beliefs you have fed in secret, including the wounds you covered with improvised bandages but never truly treated. A study by the Institute of Psychology at USP on self-sabotage revealed that 72% of Brazilians who achieve a significant conquest, whether financial, professional, or personal, experience what psychologists call imposter syndrome within the first 90 days. 72%. This means that nearly 3 out of every 4 people who receive something great from God immediately begin to wonder if they truly deserve it, if it will last, if it wasn't a mistake. And this silent doubt is the fertile ground where the enemy plants the seeds of return. Because when you do not feel worthy of what you received, you unconsciously sabotage it to return to the place you consider familiar, even if that place is scarcity. God wants to resolve this before handing you the next level. He does not want to give you a company if you still think like an employee. He does not want to give you a blessed relationship if you still carry the identity of someone rejected. He does not want to give you influence if you still hide because you think your light bothers others. And that is why before the promotion comes the purification. Before the spotlight comes the mirror. There is another Hebrew word I need to give you now. The word is tzaraf. Tzaraf means to refine, to purify, to test by fire. It is the same word used to describe the process of purifying gold. The goldsmith places the raw gold in the fire, and the fire does not destroy the gold. The fire destroys the impurities that are mixed with the gold. The goldsmith knows the process is complete when he can see his own reflection on the surface of the metal. God is the goldsmith. You are the gold. And the fire you have endured, the pressure, the fatigue, the loneliness, the misunderstanding, this fire is not destroying you. It is removing everything that is not you. It is burning away the fear. It is melting the shame. It is evaporating the insecurity. And when the process is complete, God will look at you and see His own reflection. Malachi chapter 3 verse 3 says, "He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." Notice the detail. God sits. He does not leave the room. He does not abandon you in the fire. He remains there watching, controlling the temperature, ensuring the fire does not exceed what is necessary. Every tear you cried, He counted. Every sleepless night, He watched. Every moment you thought you were alone, He was seated beside the furnace, waiting for the exact moment to take you out. And that moment is now. I need you to do something very important. Share this video with someone. Not with just anyone. With that person who immediately came to your mind while watching. That person you know is going through the fire. That person who is on the verge of giving up because they think God has forgotten them. Send this video to them now. It can be via WhatsApp, via message, or in person. The important thing is that this message arrives. Because what you are doing by sharing is not simply sending a video. It is becoming an instrument of divine intervention in someone's life. Now, I am going to give you the 3 movements you need to make starting today to position yourself correctly for what is arriving. The first movement is to stop diminishing yourself. I know that Brazilian culture has a strange thing with this. We were taught that being humble is making oneself small, that praising oneself is arrogance, that recognizing one's own value is a lack of manners. But that is not biblical humility. Biblical humility is knowing exactly who you are in God and not shrinking because of it. Moses was called the meekest man on earth, and this same Moses opened the Red Sea, confronted Pharaoh, and led an entire nation through the desert. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is strength under control, and you need to stop extinguishing your light so as not to bother those who chose to live in the dark. You were not anointed to fit into the room. You were anointed to change its atmosphere. The second movement is to abandon the filter of fear. When the blessing arrives, and it will arrive, you need to receive it with open arms, without fear that it will be taken away, without anxiety that it is too good to be true, without that voice that says whenever something good happens, something bad follows immediately. That voice is a program. It is not the truth. It is a program that was installed in you by past experiences, by generational traumas, by a culture that teaches that Brazilians were born to suffer. But you were not born to suffer. You were born to reign. And kings do not receive blessings with trembling hands. Kings receive what is theirs with the dignity of one who knows they were prepared for it. The third movement is to protect your spiritual perception. The enemy will try to use the smallness of the beginning to convince you that nothing is happening. When the first sign appears, and it will be small, like Elijah's cloud, your mind will say, "This is nothing." But your spirit will say, "This is everything." You need to learn to hear the spirit above the mind. You need to train this listening. And the training begins with a simple decision. I will be faithful to what I heard, not to what I see. Visible reality is the language of the natural world. Faith is the dialect of the kingdom. And what you heard in the spirit comes from the same voice that said, "Let there be light," and light existed. It comes from the same voice that breathed life into the clay and created the human being. It comes from the same voice that commanded existence where there was only a vacuum. If that voice told you something is on the way, then it is on the way. And no contrary evidence in the natural world has the authority to contradict what the Creator declared. Their Stanford study on decision-making showed that people who trust their intuition in moments of uncertainty make more accurate decisions than people who rely exclusively on rational data. Researchers called this somatic intelligence, the ability of the body and spirit to process information that the conscious mind has not yet accessed. You have this capacity. It was placed in you by God Himself. And now, it is time to use it. I will tell you one last thing, and I need this to be engraved on your heart like hot iron. The word suddenly appears countless times in the Bible, and in almost every occurrence, it is associated with the action of God. Suddenly, an angel appeared. Suddenly, the chains fell off. Suddenly, the sea opened. Suddenly, the wall fell. God is a God of sudden lies. He does not operate on the world's schedule. He does not follow the agenda that society determined for your life. He does not need 20 preparatory stages to deliver what He has already decreed. When God decides the time has come, there is no force in heaven, on earth, or under the earth that can hold back what He commanded to arrive. Acts chapter 2 verse 2 says, "And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house." Notice the sequence. First, the suddenly. Then, the sound. Then, the full house. There was no gradual preparation. There was no smooth transition. The Spirit did not knock on the door and ask if He could enter. He invaded. He filled. He transformed. And that is exactly what is about to happen in your life. Something is going to invade your reality. Something is going to fill the void you have carried for too long. Something is going to transform your story in a way so radical that the people around you will have no logical explanation. And when they ask how it happened, you will be able to say, "It was suddenly." Because God did not warn me weeks in advance. He simply acted. You are in the last second before the suddenly. The fire has done its work. The impurities have been burned, the test of silence has been passed, the small cloud has already appeared, and now all that remains is the rain. If this video touched your life, go to the comments and write "I am ready." I want to read your declaration. I want to see you positioning yourself before God and before the spiritual world with the certainty that what was decreed over your life cannot be stopped. Write "I am ready" and prepare yourself, because the suddenly does not wait for permission, it simply arrives. And do not forget, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, because the next video will open a dimension that connects directly with what you heard today. Do not miss it. What I will reveal tomorrow is the exact continuation of what your spirit began to process now. Until then, remember, you are a chosen one. Chosen ones are not warned. Chosen ones are surprised, and the surprise is on its way.